morning, everyone. My name is Emily. I'm our Director of Programs for 11th grade. And today I have with me Deb Brandt, who is the CEO and founder of Fig Industries, as a guest on our professional development series. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me and for starting off with some 80s music.
Oh, of course. Just to kick us off, my first question for you is, where are you from and what were some of your interests growing up?
So I am from a little town around here called Mannheim. I'm sure you've heard of it. I grew up out in the country, and I would say on a farm, but it was more of a farm that my dad farmed on the side. So I grew up here in Lancaster County, and then said I am never coming back, and went to New York City, and then ended up coming back in 2000.
Yep. And before...
So in the 80s.
In the 80s.
Mannheim. Mannheim in the 80s is different than Mannheim now.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
So before New York City, though, you still stayed in state for undergrad, correct?
I did.
You went to Kutztown University.
Yes. So, yeah. So I know many of you are, starting out your college journey. And at the time, I grew up a very, humble background. My mom cleans houses, she still does, and my father was a tile layer. So I wanted to go to art school. So here I was, this kind of awkward art school girl in a football school. It wasn't really a place where they valued artistic expression. So I was looking for a college, and I wanted to go to the New York schools or RISD, but that was out of the question. And so I looked at the next best thing, which was Kutztown University, because they have a really great communication design program. So I was very focused on that specific program. And that's really all where I wanted to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you always have, an interest in marketing, or is this something that you discovered during your time in college? I guess I'm just not as familiar with the degree program that you were a part of.
So the degree program is called Communication Design, and it's actually, there were two tracks back then, either fine art or commercial art. And I knew that I needed to support myself, and I didn't want to rely on anyone. And so I didn't go fine, I went commercial. So that was kind of how I made the decision.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so how did you first find yourself going to New York City? How was your first job after college, and how did you set yourself up for success?
So it was, you have to remember, it was a very different time. So I know,
90s
ancient
now, right?
history, 1993. The internet did not exist. There was, I'm serious. Maybe it did, somewhere, but not in public knowledge. And so I said, I'm getting on a bus, and I'm going to New York City, and I'm not coming back until I have a job. And so I set up some interviews, got on a bus with my portfolio, and interviewed for the whole day, came back at 2 o'clock in the morning, and said, I got a job, I'm moving to New York for $21,000 a year. And I didn't know a soul. I didn't know anyone. So it was, and that was not a lot of money in New York, by the way. And so that's what I did.
Wow.
Yeah. And this was before cell phones.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. So so I went up the next weekend with my boyfriend, and at the time, he is my husband still. And we looked through the papers and found an apartment and just took whatever we could get. In New Jersey. We couldn't afford actual Manhattan.
I'm from New Jersey, northern New Jersey
Nutley.
specifically.
Do you know Nutley?
I'm not actually familiar with Nutley.
It's right by the Meadowlands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm from Bergen County, so.
That's Bergen County. It's one of those little towns,
awkward.
do you know the oranges? The oranges, and all the towns run together.
Okay.
Yeah, Nutley is close to the Lincoln Tunnel.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. I'm closer to the GW Bridge.
Okay.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
That is too funny. It really is, though. That's too funny.
Yeah, so that's what I did. And then I got my very first job at a design studio on 57th Street.
Okay.
It was called Lukasiewicz Design. They hired a lot of people from Kutztown because they knew we were first generation, and we worked really hard. And I worked my butt off for 3.5 years, and then I went to Ralph Lauren Fragrances. We catered to the fragrance and cosmetic industry. So we were doing designs and comps and all of these things for the cosmetic industry, which led me to apply for this job at Ralph Lauren Fragrances. And I was there for a few years, and then that president took me to Parfums Givenchy, which is part of Louis Vuitton. And that's where I was before I came back here.
So you mentioned that a lot of, from your first job, they took a lot of students from Kutztown University. Was that something you knew and intentionally applied to that respective job because of that connection? Or is that something you later discovered?
I did hear it.
You did hear that?
I heard about it, yeah. I applied to 5 cities. They were Philadelphia, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, and Minneapolis, because Minneapolis at the time was like a hotbed for design. So it's not anymore, but it was.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What was the transition like going from a non-designer brand into the designer brand industry?
So do you mean from the first studio? The first studio did work for designer brands.
They did? Okay.
We were a vendor doing design and comps, which that's probably a word you might not know. When fragrance, like Ralph Lauren, they want to start a new fragrance, they do some preliminary designs. And we actually create dummy packaging at the time, hand make them to be able to photograph them. So the things that you would see in the magazines, that was handmade. Those weren't really production because the production weren't as well done. So I was doing that and doing design sketches and designs for the primaries, which are the actual bottle, and then the secondaries, which is the box.
Interesting. Did you feel fulfilled during this
Oh my gosh,
time?
I loved it.
Okay.
So I think it was my 20s, and I just wanted to climb. I loved it. Yeah.
So, having grown up near New York City, I often ask myself, why did I move to Lancaster?
Well, it wasn't cool back then. I mean, it's
cool now.
Yeah.
I will say, yes, I do enjoy my time, specifically this job, but what made you decide to return back to your hometown in the early 2000s?
Yeah, because it wasn't cool then either.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was almost 29, which is not old, it's young. And I ended up, believe it or not, because I've been healthy my whole life. And I don't talk about this a lot because it's not something that I want to be defined by, but I was actually diagnosed with a melanoma. So just a random skin check, which is why I will always be pale as a sheet because I don't go in the sun. And I was only 29 years old. So it was a little bit of a reality check. At that point, I had been married for 7 years because I married the guy that I went on the bus with the portfolio. And we wanted to start a family, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna move back here. And when I came back here, I had a job offer in Chicago. So it was for Unilever. So it would have been on the pier in Chicago, and they flew me out there. We were looking at apartments, it was pretty far along. And I was like, okay, either I'm gonna do this and stay in corporate and kill it, or I'm going to come back here and start over from scratch. And so I decided to do the hard one.
Yeah.
And I came back here and started over from scratch. And literally went from making 6 figures, and this is when I was 2000, to nothing.
So how did you approach restarting all of your connections and essentially your career? Because you just went from being very established to now having to completely start over.
Yeah, so luckily I kept a lot of connections, and this was before remote working was actually a thing. And I was working from the attic of my farmhouse for, it's actually a small world in fragrance and cosmetics, and so I was working for some startup brands and also doing a lot for Christian Dior. That was the biggest client that I had. And so I was doing that work for the first 5 years in my attic with 3 babies. And FedEx would come to my house every day, and the neighbors are like, "What are you doing over there?" Because it was before you could transfer a lot of files and stuff. It was that long ago. So yeah.
And how did you maintain your connections, given that a lot of them, I guess, had to be more in person? And then how do you continue to maintain connections now in a more modern era?
Yeah, I would go up once a month and meet with people, but it was mostly, phone and email.
Very nice. Very nice. So I guess in doing a little bit of research, part of FIG's mission is to design for good. What inspired you to build a business that is rooted in a mission for design for good?
So when I came back here and started my business, and remember it was 2000, and so I went to a lawyer in Mannheim and said, I want to start my business. And this was an old school guy in Mannheim, and I walked out, I didn't go back. He said to me, you know, you might as well not do it all the way, because most businesses fail anyway.
Ooh.
Because I'm a woman, right? And of course I was like, yeah, you're not my lawyer. So it was starting out from scratch. You know, I couldn't even be on the mortgage because you have to be in business for a year. And coming from a high-power job in New York, I was like, come on.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. Lancaster was a different place then. It was. I was usually the only woman in the room for a lot of the meetings that I was in. What I did do is I dove in head first. So I started to say, let's see what we can do in this city, and just started going to meetings and saying, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of the solution. How can we help? And my partner at the time, which you may know, Tracy Cutler, for the first 5 years I freelanced and had babies. So, and in 2005, Tracy and I started working together doing marketing, and that's when we came up with the idea for FIG.
You talk about this idea of being a part of the solution. What was the problem that you noticed that needed to be fixed?
Well, back then, people didn't want to come downtown. Like, people didn't want to come to the city. They thought, I mean, I had a realtor when I moved back here that didn't want to show us houses in the city because it was scary. They said you'd get mugged. They said there's no parking, it's dirty, like all of those things. People actually told people don't go downtown. And so my thought is, if we can create something that makes people want to come here because this is the cool place to be, eventually they'll come.
Interesting. I guess from the perspective of being a woman and sometimes being the only woman in a room, and then also having a vision to make this city a desirable place and being consistently told that it is not worth your time and energy.
Oh my gosh. No, they called us Pollyannas.
Ooh.
They told us that we're being ridiculous. This place is not cool. Why would you want to bring people here? Yeah, it was crazy. For at least 5 years.
How did you continue to push forward? I feel like with 5 years of being told.
And making no money too. We didn't make any money on it.
How did this happen?
Yeah, I think we just decided to stick it out, and we saw potential, and there were so many hidden treasures here that people didn't know about. You know, like businesses that started here in alleys, and they were national businesses, but nobody knew about them. And small businesses that were hurting, and they needed people to come downtown. So it really started on the premise of, the things that people would want to come downtown and do. So shopping, dining, and arts and culture. And then it ended up leading into entertainment, history, education, and community. And community are our nonprofits and our services. But it was really built on more just get people here.
Get people down here. I'm really glad that you brought up the philanthropic side of Lancaster. As in addition to operating FIG Industries, you've served on several boards of directors and committees over the years. Why is it important to you to volunteer in your community?
Yeah. So, one, as I said, I dove in. I wanted to get involved. I wanted to see if what I do, and coming from being first generation and coming from, I want to do something creative, you have almost this idea that what can I do that's actually going to make a difference? How can graphic design make a difference? So it took me a while to realize, you know what? People like ideas, and ideas are what's really going to shift and change the world. And so we can use that to solve problems and to find solutions for things. So I started volunteering. And then I was asked to be on the board of Lancaster City Alliance and Discover Lancaster, and just see if I can use my talents in that way. Right now I'm on the board of the United Way, and I think that's it right now, yeah. And Tandem, which is employee ownership.
Okay, I see. And then FIG itself still commits to giving back to local nonprofits through donation sponsorships and social mission partnerships as well.
So we have this really cool thing. So for this November, I can't believe it, is going to be our 20th anniversary. So it makes me feel very old that, like, I started it when my kids were babies and now they're like, have careers. But yeah, it'll be our 20th anniversary. And for the first 18 years, we had social mission partners. Children Deserve a Chance was actually a social mission partner way back when it first started. And the social mission partner would get free advertising in FIG for the whole year. And what we ended up doing 2 years ago was shifting that, because I wanted to start a legacy that would live beyond us and beyond me. And I went to the Community Foundation and said, how can I do this? Because I was putting my will together. Because my husband and I were going overseas, all that. You should do that. Everyone should do that. And we started a donor-advised fund, and it's called the Fig Tree.
That's so fun.
And the Fig Tree is a grant program for small businesses. And so this is the second year, and we just awarded 4 more grants. They're $5,000 apiece. They're not huge grants, but it helps small businesses who, you have to be in business for at least a year. You have to be brick and mortar because we want that sustainability. But it helps businesses that maybe are getting a little discouraged by that 3-year point. And that $5,000 will go into new ideas and new innovations, like pocketbooks painted a big mural on the side of their building. So something that's going to improve them. And so we have I don't get to decide because I don't want that pressure of deciding who gets the grants. So we have a community advisory group that decides. And so we had 4 that were given out this year that were just announced.
Very exciting. Yeah. That's so fun.
And the public can donate too, which is cool. So we have people that have donated. So we give out 2 grants, and then the other donations make up the rest of
the grants.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's really cool because small businesses don't really have the opportunity for just free money.
Yeah.
That can help them move to the next stage.
Especially considering they're for-profit typically.
Yes.
And most of the resources are for nonprofits. Okay. I guess to pivot a little bit, seeing as we are approaching the 20th anniversary of FIG, congratulations.
Thank you.
What catches your eye as the founder of FIG from new creatives, like new age creatives?
Yeah. So I have a small scholarship at Kutztown University, just because and it's only for first generation college students.
Okay.
Female. Because I believe 100% in education, but also in getting out of your hometown and experiencing the world and not staying in one place unless you find something you really love. But it is important to experience the world so that you can broaden your perspectives. So what was the question again?
Yes. What catches your eye as the founder of FIG from new age creatives?
Yeah, so how to get into the industry, that type of thing. I would say why I was talking about Kutztown is what I've noticed, because I've watched the students. I go back to portfolio reviews often, not every year, but most years, is that they're no longer focusing on the basics, like the basics of design, hierarchy and typography and the basics that you can learn the newest programs yourself, but if you don't know the basics, it's setting you up for failure. So I have seen some of the basics slide in just sensibilities, design sensibilities.
I'm sure that our Chief Marketing Officer is smiling right now, as typography is one of his favorite things to talk about with our students in our design class.
It's because the programs change all the time, and there's just so much technology and so much out there, but you have to focus on the basics.
So, in addition, I guess, to the basics, how do you, right now, as someone in your senior level of your career, continue to work on your own professional development, given that this is a professional development series? You have the basics down, clearly, but how do you continue to stay up to date with new trends, and do you seek out resources or people to look to? I guess, how do you continue learning?
So our team is encouraged to continue learning all the time. So we have, skill shares and all of those things and classes that we can go to. And for myself, I recently totally got out of my comfort zone. So it's important to not be comfortable. And what I found is that my uncomfortable zone is public speaking. So I found a really difficult public speaking course. It's in Lambertville, New Jersey, and it was a year-long program, and I wrote a keynote and had to learn how to perform it. And that was definitely out of my comfort zone. So it's not specifically with design, but it's saying, okay, what is holding me back? And what I was noticing is that I would be on stage with other people, anyone, sometimes it would be a male, who would take the microphone and hold the attention of the crowd. And I wasn't doing that. And so you have to notice where you could improve and then try to get better. So it was horribly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was awful. But I really enjoyed it, and I met people from all over the world that were at this program.
Whoa. Were you in
really
person for the program the entire year?
For the performance part of it, yes.
Okay.
For the writing part, no.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool. So I haven't done anything like that and invested in myself for a long time, so that was a big deal.
I really appreciate you talking about investing in yourself. It's definitely something that I'm starting to do now with having a job coach and seeing what that looks like and diving into those uncomfortable moments. And I feel like there are times where I don't necessarily see the progress and growth. So I guess from your perspective, because you stuck out for an entire year in a very uncomfortable position, what made you continue pushing forward even if you didn't see progress yourself?
Yeah, well, I still get nervous in front of a crowd. I think I knew so what I wanted to be able to speak about is the FIG concept, because we have FIG in other areas.
Oh, let's talk about
And so
that.
we started a franchise 2 years ago. It was official, and I want to be able to speak about that nationally, and I knew I couldn't do that on a national stage at the level that I was. So it was more seeing what needed to happen.
Okay.
It was more that.
Now, that leads us into my other question, which is, how did you take a business that it was intended to be in your hometown to really just uplift Lancaster and turn it into a national industry?
We're trying.
Well, working on it, I guess. What is your plan? How are you doing it? How are you working towards that goal?
So what we realized is that for FIG to be successful in other areas, it needed a passionate team in those areas like us. How does our team, who Carly's in the back, hi Carly, she does social media, but everyone is local, right? And they're super involved all the time. So you can't do it from afar. We tried to do that. We had some other areas that we were designing it from here and trying to lead it from here with one local person, and it just didn't work. It needs to be all local all the time, and it has to have a team of passionate, we call them community enthusiasts, who really love their town. So first we had to figure out, okay, why are these two areas, because we have a location in South Carolina, in Columbia, South Carolina, that's been there for 12 years and is successful, and us, how did we make it through COVID successfully? And we had 3 areas that failed.
That did not,
because they were company owned. And it's because it has to be a team that has skin in the game, that they are involved all the time, that they are on boards, that they are invested. So we pulled back and took 2 years to put the franchise together. Then we transitioned Columbia to a franchise, also the Lehigh Valley to a franchise. We sold that to a franchise. And then we're started, we have a big announcement.
Ooh.
We're actually launching Charleston in November.
Whoa!
Yeah.
That's so
a big one.
exciting. Okay,
That's a big one.
take notes.
We're
students who
training
are
right now.
going.
We're training.
We have a college tour headed to North
Oh,
Carolina
you do?
this summer. Yeah.
Hey, this program is so cool. I was talking to Alex before today, like 20 minutes ago. There was nothing like this when I was in high school, and it would have been absolutely amazing that you get to go and do all of these things and see all of these places.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. Wow, I just lost my train of thought because I was like, oh my gosh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess something that is on my mind right now is I'm not a local. And I currently work for a nonprofit that very much invests in our local community. So thinking about as you are going to start building branches in other cities like Charleston, yes, you're going to look for people who are from the area and are passionate, but what are the, I guess, skills or characteristics that you look for from people who might be more like me, not from the area, but want to invest in the area? How do you, what are you looking for, especially if there are students here who want to branch out before coming back and investing in the community that raised you? What characteristics are you looking for?
So if anyone was at the chamber dinner, which I know, Jordan, I think you were, and they were talking about AI, and we're talking about, what is the future for the job market? What I perked up at when I heard him speaking about that was communication. So if you're able to provide an experience for either your client or for your customer, it's about that experience, because AI can't provide that. How do you make people feel when you work with them? So communication skills, just being able to connect with people and being able to form relationships and to make people feel welcomed and part of something bigger. They were talking about investing in third spaces, and that's a lot of what I talk about in the speech that I wrote. Is it's investing in cities and investing in giving people a reason to feel like they belong and a reason to feel like they're part of something. So, you want people to support small business so that it helps those small businesses survive. But it also builds a sense of community, that I would rather buy from this person, and I will spend, there is a statistic that people will spend $2,000 more per year at small, independently owned businesses. But they have to know about them.
Yeah.
So it's about giving people something to be a part of, and that our city is so cool. Look at our city. Don't you want to come visit? Don't you want to come stay here? So, and it's getting more creatives and more people like you to come from out of town and move here. That's going to make our city so much better and so much richer and so much just, think of what happened to our food scene when people started coming here and opening restaurants that didn't taste like everything else that we had. Yeah. It's just going to make our city better.
It's very affirming, because they're definitely, or at least I sometimes experience imposter syndrome being in this type of organization, despite how amazing it is, because I can't always relate to, I grew up where if I wanted to see a cow, I had to go to the zoo, and that is very different from this area where I can just drive 5 minutes down the street. So I really appreciate the reassurance that it takes people also moving and investing into the city in order for it to thrive.
I think we've hit that tipping point, that it was very insular in the past, and you couldn't break in if you didn't have a name that people knew or whatever. But it's not like that anymore. So I feel like we have hit that tipping point that, yes, new ideas are welcomed.
Do you ever see yourself leaving Lancaster again to gain more experience before coming back, whether that be short term or long term? Or do you find yourself, you're really here?
This is my home base, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I do want to save some of my other questions until after I open it up to our audience. I just know we have so many guests here. So who has Laura?
I'm just curious, why fig? What does the fig represent?
Yes, and this is called Figment. This is about our design and marketing studio. And we did put some of that in here because it's the 25th anniversary of the studio and the 20th anniversary of Fig. So this is more about the studio. The reason that we chose Fig as the name, it wasn't a popular fruit back then. It was actually pretty obscure. And the fig itself is a very historic fruit, and the seeds in the fig mean unity and prosperity. So there's lots of cool analogies around the fig fruit itself. But it's not an acronym. It is about the fruit.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Out of all the lessons you been taught in your life, what's the biggest lesson you bounced back from?
Bounce back from, so that I didn't like or that I did appreciate?
Both.
Oh, gosh. Well, what I don't appreciate is when people tell me I can't do something. So I have never listened to that. I have always taken it as a challenge. So that's one thing, even when it comes to budgets. I will say, for a very long time as a creative, money was not It's never been my primary objective. So owning a studio and wanting to hire the best people, but I couldn't because we couldn't afford it, all of those things. It took me about a decade to realize that money matters and that I can't fulfill my mission unless I actually charge for what it's worth and I can actually like pay people that I want on the team. And so, you know, everyone's like, it shouldn't be about money, but it matters because I can't pay for the printing. I can't pay, it matters. And so it took me a while as a creative professional to realize that there are budgets that have to be hit.
Yeah.
And I have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that's one lesson that I learned the hard way by not making a lot of money for a very long time. And until I changed my mindset about that. So that's one thing. I remember one inspirational time I was walking down the street, and it was more inspirational to me than it sounds when I say it out loud. I just have to say that. But I was walking down the street in New York by myself, going to the subway or something. It was dark, it was probably like 9 o'clock at night, and there was an old man and his granddaughter, I guess. She would look like she was probably in her early 20s, walking in front of me. And he was just telling her, because I guess she was upset about a career thing or something. I was listening, I was eavesdropping.
As you should.
And he said to her, every single step you take is part of the experience, and it will get you to the next thing. And so I always thought about that because I had jobs that were horribly uncomfortable, but I stuck it out and I learned what I could from it and then used it to get to the next thing. But I never gave up. So
what point in those careers did you realize it was time to move on?
So my first job was at a design studio, and I worked for the owner's son.
Okay.
And I felt I ended up kind of like helping so much that I was the lead on the clients. And the next step would have been art director. And I knew I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. So that was when I knew I needed to go there. And then the job after that, the president of that company came and said, you have no excuse, you're coming with me. So I went too far from so yeah.
Sometimes it was a decision that fell into your lap, and other times it was, this is the next thing in my career.
It was always it was very clear.
Very clear for you. Well, I do want to get back to the audience, sorry. Yeah, Seb.
You talked about like when you went back to Lancaster, like a huge part of your success was keeping connections, and like that whole communication of providing experience is what like makes people come back. So in terms of just like keeping connections, like it's always easy to make connections but hard to keep them. So like what were ways that you found that best kept those connections for when you came back?
For when I came back here? When I came back here, I didn't have any connections. So because I had left when I left high school. So I really didn't know anyone at that point. It had been a decade. A little over a decade after college, I guess. So that's when I just dove in and started meeting people. I would say when I went to New York City, I didn't know a soul. I didn't have $1. I mean, this sounds silly, but I really didn't have $1. And so I think the reason it worked is I didn't have a safety net. There was no safety net, and I had to make it work. And, talking to I'm probably not answering your question correctly, but talking to young people that work for me now, when I say young people in their early 20s, everyone seems to have this plan B and C and, what's going to happen if it doesn't work out? Like, you don't need that because that then gives you an out. I didn't have an out. I didn't have parents supporting me financially. They're very supportive emotionally, but not financially. And you just have to make it work. So I would say going to New York, I didn't know a soul and had no other form of support. Coming back here to Lancaster, I had family, but I didn't have any professional connections. So I did have to form all of those. So that's when I started joining things and going into uncomfortable places, volunteering. The extremes. I actually like to do things that make me uncomfortable. So, I came back here and I had, the mommy friends and the junior league, and then I'd have the professional side of things. So, yeah, not all in one category.
I do appreciate that because I feel like it's important to have different people that serve different purposes in your life without it sounding, I guess, I don't know, inhumane. Like it's important to have your professional friends along with your personal friends. Absolutely. Jordan?
There's so much talk about work-life balance, and I see you everywhere all the time. How balanced do you think you are, and what are just your overall thoughts on like somebody trying to be extraordinary and then also trying to be balanced?
Yeah. I hate the term work-life balance because, I love what I do. So it doesn't feel like work to me. And I love people. So I'm in the right place doing the right thing. So it doesn't feel like, I have to stay away from that. I will say, because I had small children, I became very good at compartmentalizing what I'm doing. So if I'm in work mode, they don't really hear from me. But when I'm at home, I'm at home. So I literally don't have a home office. I might check in on my phone, but I don't have a home office, and I don't want one because I will work too much. I think it's important to understand that there are seasons of life. And that some seasons, work is going to be much more in the forefront. In your 20s, it should be all about work. It is. And I really had no outside life other than work and my husband, but I didn't have really a personal life outside of work when I was in New York. But there are seasons. And then there's seasons where, you might take a little bit more of a back seat. And I've done that my whole life because of raising children. And now my kids are grown and I'm back in it. So I was always in it all the way, but I think it's just, you have to keep in mind that it's the long game and that there are seasons to your life that are going to feel different. There's even seasons to our work that we do at FIG. And I talk with our team about that all the time. Like right now, FIG's in-house and it's going to feel intense. But 2 weeks from now, it won't. And you have to realize that as you don't get overwhelmed in the moment. You have to have perspective.
Absolutely. I saw a couple of other hands. Terry, then I saw Izadine, and then we'll go to Leo.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in thinking about the questions of scaling, especially for like businesses, organizations, things like that. So I'm really excited to hear that FIG is expanding. I'm just curious what steps you took leading up to that to prepare for that sort of scaling, and then also how are you ensuring that that FIG identity is still maintained despite the fact that you're going to be in these other cities that look very, very different from Lancaster, but we're still all under the same sort of brand.
Yeah. There's so many things to unpack there. So I feel like a 20-year-old startup. Like seriously. Like I feel like we have been a startup for 20 years. I have been wanting to go bigger with FIG for 15 years, but it is slow. It is slow progress. It is, how do you do that? How do you keep the integrity of the product when it's scaling? And so it's finding the right team in the right city who can actually, and then oversight to make sure. So we have, we've slid a little bit in certain cities, and I have to get them back on track. And that just, that's kind of a little bit of the nature of the game. What I think is going to save that from happening would be the fact that we have grown so slowly. I don't believe in fast growth because a lot of times it's not sustainable. We have grown so slowly, and we've put processes in place and systems in place that hopefully it will be long-term successful growth. And we didn't come into it wanting to franchise. This is something that grew out of creating a great product. It's not me coming to the market saying, I'm going to do this for a year and then I'm going to franchise it all across the country. That was never the intent. So it's coming in with the right intent, but then also growing slowly and intentionally, which is why this has been the long game.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you're gonna run. We ran into a roadblock just the other day with Charleston. You're going to run into roadblocks, and don't get discouraged and give up.
Izadine.
So you've done many amazing and great things. Looking back through life, what is one thing that you wish you had done differently?
Ooh.
And what is a lesson you learned from it?
Oh gosh. I think the hardest part about owning a business, because you can be an entrepreneur and you can have a great idea, and I can work all day and all night and I can kill it, right? But if you ever want to grow, you need a team. And what no one teaches you how to do, especially for me, who I grew up in an age where you didn't really have mentors, you didn't really have someone like teaching you how to do the leadership thing. They don't teach you how to be a leader. So I fumbled my way through it for the first probably 10 years. And I still don't get it right a lot of the time. But I messed up a lot when it came to trying to get people on board with the vision and nurturing a team and leading a team. That is hard. It is really, really hard to do that. So if anyone here has managed people, it's difficult. And I just kind of dove in. I'm like, okay, you guys are as passionate as I am, right? Let's do this. And didn't realize that maybe they didn't have the same objectives that I had, or care about the same things, or want to work as hard as I did. So I think just making a lot of leadership mistakes for a long time, but then seeking out help. So the leadership, the training that I was telling you about, public speaking, that's different. I've been working with Work Wisdom for a long time.
Love Work Wisdom.
And that's when, and that was probably about 8 years ago when we were in a really rough spot. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it's relying on others when you realize that you're not an expert at something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Leah?
I think the FIG brand is so identifiable. It's everywhere. I hear about it all the time. I see the magazines and all the restaurants. So 2 questions is, how do you manage FIG's brand? How do you manage your brand? I think you have a brand as well. And then what advice do you have for organizations like ours or other organizations as they try to build a brand that is recognizable?
Yeah, well, the first thing is hire really great people and don't screw it up when you're leading them. So that's probably that's the biggest thing. And then I don't actually think I have a personal brand, and I don't want one. I always tried not to put myself in the forefront. I think that's really important. If you're trying to build something that is bigger than you, you can't be the face of something. So I rarely, unless they put me in social media, which I don't love, but I don't want to put myself in the forefront. So when it comes to building that brand building is what we do. So on the FIG industry side of the business, so it's really about a layered approach, and it's about being consistent in your messaging. So when anyone comes into the company, we have we train them, and the messaging has to be consistent. And especially like in a social media position like Carly, we were looking for someone that it's not about them. It's about the FIG brand and how can they represent the FIG brand. So looking for people that they don't personally want to be out in front either, and they want to be behind the mission. So getting people on board with the mission.
Thank you. Lily.
If you could tell your high school self anything, what would you say?
Ooh. Don't ever let your kids go on social media. No. I just feel so blessed that I did not have that pressure on me growing up. Like, we didn't have it, and I'm so glad that I didn't have it. So I would say don't be so hard on yourself. Like I never compared myself that much to other people just because you didn't know what other people were doing. I went to Kutztown, not Pratt, not like a big school in New York, but I'm like, I'm going to do this anyway. If I had seen what they were doing, and I was able to go to New York and I was able to compete because I believed in myself because I didn't know any better. So I think like maybe embrace your naivete. I don't know. Like don't overthink things. That's what I would say. And don't be too hard on yourself.
We have time for one more question. Pritesh.
So within those first earlier years, either when you were freelancing or even when you started FIG, what were some either moments or metrics that you used that were really encouraging for you, and then how have those moments or metrics changed as FIG has developed?
Yeah. So for FIG now, it's more about impact. When you're just starting out and you have a freelance business, it's about getting the next client, right? And when I moved back here, what I brought to Lancaster wasn't as appreciated as it is now. So I was doing most of my freelancing like in the New York area or that metro area. And so I guess it's when I first started actually making some money, like that was a big deal without having a paycheck on my own. So some of those metrics, I always have a goal. I always have a goal. And that way I can kill it. So even on my budget for each issue of Fig, everything is very goal-oriented and very deadline-oriented. And I'm pretty regimented about sticking to those things. So I would say those were my metrics all the way along. And forming relationships. I mean, I had those relationships with Christian Dior for at least 5 years until those people started, moving on to other jobs. And that's what kept me going.
Thank you.
Emily, can I ask one more and then you close it out?
Okay.
Just because we talk about numbers and talk about money being important, how does Fig make money? Like, what are the different revenue streams, just so everybody's kind of, how do you make money?
Yeah. Well, the industry side of the business, Fig Industry, is design and marketing. So we do branding and we do campaigns and communications plans and those types of things. The magazine itself, that is advertiser driven. So we sell pages, which is difficult. Think about that. So we sell pages in the book, but what we try to do is sell more than just a page, but you're part of something. So it's a multi-platform communications package. You're part of something. We have a big party with each issue. So we only have 4 books a year. And it is mostly advertiser driven, but one of the good things that came out of COVID is that I was forced to look at it a little bit differently, and I started finding sponsors and giving away free space in Fig. And it allowed the book to be much deeper and richer in its content because I was going out and finding sponsors. So for example, we have a restaurant guide, and that restaurant guide has every single city and cafe in the whole city. Restaurant and cafe in the whole city. We have a retail guide that has every single retail store in the whole city, and they don't pay anything. But I had to raise 20 grand for each of those things. So it allowed, because I needed to start having a part sponsorship model, it allowed us to take away some of the barrier of cost. And that was really important. So that was one of the good things that came out of COVID. I don't think I've ever worked so hard, but and I never really tapped fellow board members or anything until that time. And then I'm like, hey, I need your help over here for these small businesses. So I would say it is advertiser driven, but it's also sponsor driven. And we have our sponsors that really are the foundation of what we do.
Well, I'm really appreciative of the cafe part of your guide because I love exploring different cafes in the city. So
yeah, mark off where you go and see if you can hit some that you haven't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To close us out, I would love to share a quote that I found from your website. So this website is specifically for learning about you and booking your engagements.
Oh, you found that?
I know.
Kind of hidden.
I know. That's why I was like, wait, you don't have a brand, but yet you have this entire website about you.
That was because of the public speaking course.
Oh, wow.
That's why I did that, yeah.
Okay, well, I loved this little blurb that you had, so I'm going to share it with you all today. You wrote, "I'm here to build a case for love. Not the romantic kind, but the kind of love that means you feel ownership over something. You care about it because it's part of you. You will do anything to protect it, defend it, fight for it." So I feel like that definitely encompasses everything that we talked about today. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for your questions as well.
Thank you. Thank you.